Thanks for having me. So I'll give you a bit of brief of my background and I think how the first startup and the second one. So as a kid, I think I was always interested in robotics. So I built robots, I think, from fifth, sixth class, from your line follower robot to uh, I mean, obviously, initially it was more RC control robots and then line follower, and then you start doing more codings. Then you start getting into computer vision based robots doing using cameras to do different things. So I was always interested in technology and fascinated by computer. And I think at a very young age, I started coding. And I'm sure a lot of us on the panel and the speaker would have done that. After my engineering from DC, I went and studied at Cornell, and then I started working at a ad startup in New York, and then worked at Yahoo on their search engine for almost a year and a half. And then I started a company called Cube 26. I co-founded with my other two co-founders. That was my first time actually running a successful company that ran over almost 6 to 7 years. It was building what we were interested in was in building operating system for mobile phone devices. And this is that 2012-13 era when smartphone was like sort of growing globally, and it was a new disruption in the phone industry, and we wanted to be a part of that. And we built uh, these operating system that shipped on around 8 to 10 million devices, largely in India, and then went to launch some of the IoT related product, smart bulb, and whatever you can think in home appliances. We built, innovated, pivoted a lot, and eventually sold the company to Paytm. And then I think Euler Motor took its birth, and that's largely again because we were here in India for 5 6 years, and I we used to constantly see pollution especially in Delhi NCR in October November time. It's something you can't just miss, and like for 4 years having that just in your face every winter, it's very hard to not to acknowledge it. Being an engineer and also interested in like how technology can solve some of these large problems, I think we decided to take a shot at it. Obviously, this is just 2 years in. We have built a couple of prototypes, and we are working toward launching our first sort of commercial vehicle toward the end of the year. But throughout this journey, right? I mean, I would want to touch on the learnings and some of the failures and things that you asked for. See, one of the thing that I always sort of like go back and realize that if you're building a company, you need to be passionate about it in the sense that, I mean, passion people talk about it. I mean, I mean, what do they actually mean by passion? And the way I look at it is like, whenever you're building, there are going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I think passion, the way it sort of differentiates from your likeness or any other activity that you like for instance, I like playing Counter Strike whenever I'm down, or let's just say I go and play chess or different, read a book. But that's one kind of liking. But being passionate about something, I feel, is when you are low or you are hit some obstacle or you don't have a way to get through, and it's still you can get up in the morning and walk towards it. And that's something that the way I looked at, and I found it as always as a kid, right? I used to building these robots and building these hardware and software combination of things, be it smaller vehicles, be it underwater vehicle at Cornell, or underwater aerial vehicle, UAVs. So all of that had that combination. So I could always go back and look at those struggles and like, still being very happy, showing up next day with broken propellers and thinking about how to fix them and like, building so I mean, some of that automatically happen. And I think it is very important because we idolize success a lot. And like, a lot of time we get inspired by, I mean, a lot of success of big companies and entrepreneurs globally. But whenever I've read their biography, there are no single entrepreneur that I've found that actually just had goods in their life. And in fact, Elon, I think very much inspired from him. But even his life, right? I looked at like, I mean, the ups and downs he went through, almost going through bankruptcy or personal issues and different things, right? So, and you look at be it go to China and look at Alibaba's success story, you look at any success story. So that's just going to bound to happen when you're building the company. And it happened to me both in Cube 26 and at Euler as well, that uh, there, whatever you see, I mean, the press and the good news that's there, but there is a lot of like also, the downs. And I think you have to be very, very passionate about whatever you're building. It takes a lot of time to build. That's the another thing. Nothing happens overnight. So it takes, like, these, some of these positive things, it gets compounded over a period of time. So you have to be at the problem for decade to make even a dent, right? If you look at even the EV industry in India, it has been almost 8-9 years, and I don't think we have moved much. I mean, there is some progress, but there's an undercurrent building, and like, those are exponential curves and waiting to explode. So it takes time. So you have to be passionate. You have to have like this patience, resilience, and some of those qualities are very, very important. Uh, Doing it second time doesn't make things easy. That's another thing. So I always thought like, I built a company. This time will be really easy. No, I think it wasn't. And especially if you're building a difficult, sort of like, I would say, capex heavy business, right? Or even in Pixel case, if they're building a satellite, I'm assuming it's extremely difficult, right? I mean, figuring out possibilities, or thinking about like these probability, even one, like, they have solar radiation and the temperature is very, very high up, or simulating those electromagnetic radiations in their labs, it would be impossible. And a lot of that, like, it's just super difficult to do. So just doing things just because you had experience in one field versus like you have done the company doesn't make things easy. So you have to be prepared for a long, long race. Yeah, so these are some basic things, right? I mean, about I think investment, Paula definitely would be the best person to give us advice. But again, I think there is definitely a credibility if you have done some of these things, whether it led to success or failure. I think the industry at large, especially from venture capital, they're appreciative of like, even if it's a failure, even they're looking for true efforts. And I think that matters a lot. Even for like, Cube 26, I don't think it was a huge success for me. And most VCs understood, and they were more interested in the experience rather than like, what did it actually turn out millions of dollars for everybody in part of the shareholder committee. So yeah, so I think those are some of the learnings in the way I think about building companies. And you have to be like adaptive. That's like the basic, I would say, Charles Darwin theory, right? I mean, the change is continuous. So especially in EV space and other technology as well, be it deep tech, if you talk about AI, machine learning, the progress, it's so fast, and you have to keep yourself updated. So for that, you have to let go of like the learnings that, like things, for instance, when I was in engineering, I was doing my master's in computer science. uh, I mean, in machine learning, these support vector machines and regular sort of learning technologies were much more sort of at the forefront. And by the time I got out, did completed my Yahoo and came out, neural nets were the next sexy thing, and everybody's talking about deep learning. And in my undergrad, and actually, if you look at textbook from 10 years back, neural network was just one chapter. Like, I mean, and today it's like the most talked about subject. So you have to keep yourself like, especially in deep tech, like you have to be reading a lot and constantly updating. So those are like, I think, few things that I would definitely want to talk